great is Birmingham, and the news is its prophet.
And so it began. In 1888, Birmingham was a raw young steel town of 25,000 people, bright with the promise of prosperity and of adventure. It was this passion for life and its challenges which attracted young Rufus Rhodes to Birmingham. The boisterous city was the perfect backdrop for Rhodes' fiery nature and drive for success. The evening news and Birmingham would grow together. With $800, 2 reporters, 3 printers, and 1 press, Rhodes set out to shape the future in the Magic City. The evening news evolved to the daily news, and finally, in 1894, to the Birmingham News. By the turn of the century, the young paper could proudly assert that it had the largest circulation in Alabama. Change was shaping the new century and the news. On January 30th, 1909, readers learned that Victor Hansen had been appointed Vice President and General Manager of the Birmingham News Publishing Company. The son of a Georgia newspaper publisher, Hansen had started his own newspaper in Macon at the age of 11, the beginning of an auspicious newspaper career which would span 37 years and take him to Atlanta, Baltimore, and Montgomery before he bought a major interest in the news in 1909. Even as a youngster, Victor Hansen had a vision, and that vision assured his leadership.
It is a wholesome business to turn on the light.
Victor Hansen's commitment echoed the spirit of the news as it was conceived by Rufus Rhodes. The ideals of both men established the news' credibility, its strength, and its commitment to the city it has served for over 100 years. With the death of Rufus Rhodes in 1910, Birmingham lost a great champion for prosperity and civic pride. The torch was passed to Victor Hansen, who purchased the remaining interest in the paper. The debt Hansen incurred set the stage for the news' reputation for integrity to be cemented. The bank threatened to foreclose on Hansen's note if the news reported a high society scandal. Hansen, unwilling to put his paper in bondage by capitulating to threats, published the story in spite of the threat. The bank called the note, but Hansen's actions so impressed the officials of another bank that they agreed to loan him the funds to cover his called note. Newspaper competition was stiff in the early years of the century, generating many a story and the threat of an actual duel between editors. But by 1920, the news absorbed the Birmingham Ledger, a rival afternoon paper. And in 1927, the Morning Age Herald was also acquired. By the 1940s, the world was under siege. The news had to deal with the challenge of newsprint rationing. With thorough news coverage of the world at war of prime importance, even advertising space had to be rationed, taking 3rd place after news and circulation. An anxious public followed the war on the precious printed pages of the news. Readers embraced the news as their dominant source of information during the war years. America entered the post-war transition period with everyone eager to set business back into motion. Advertisers and readers alike were ready to accommodate a civilian economy, so the news grew in both circulation and advertising. But in the midst of this prosperity at the news, Victor Hansen died, passing the torch of leadership to his nephew. Returning from Air Force service, Clarence B. Hansen, Jr. was named the News' 3rd publisher. Meanwhile, all was not well with the news competition, The Post, which was owned by Scripps Howard. Negotiations, which stretched from 1947 until 1950, culminated in what was then a unique joint manufacturing and business arrangement between the Birmingham News Company and Scripps Howard. Both the Birmingham News and Scripps Howard's Post would be printed in the same building using the same facilities. While neither paper had any ownership in the other, and each publication retained its separate corporate identity, the Birmingham News Company agreed to do all the manufacturing, distribution, and advertising for both papers. To this day, the News acts as agent for the Post-Herald in business matters. This unique arrangement revitalized the Post-Herald's economic position, and as a result has allowed Birmingham to have competing news and editorial voices, an asset missing in many American cities today. In 1956, another critical change took place. The Birmingham News was sold to Samuel I. Newhouse for a record-setting price. A key factor in the decision to sell was the Newhouse reputation for operating each Newhouse paper independently. Control would remain local, and so would the determination of news and editorial policy. In addition, Clarence B. Hansen, Jr. remained as president and publisher. Spirited leadership guided the News from the very beginning. During the 35 years Clarence Hansen was president and publisher, the News and the World expanded in practically every respect. From the innocent 50s into the disillusionment and turbulence of the 60s, rife with war, civil unrest, and the tragic loss of 3 national heroes, Clarence Hansen led the Birmingham News as it captured and recorded the mood of the times. During the 60s, Vincent Townsend, a tough Birmingham News editor and relentless civic mover and shaker, became an influential force in community affairs through his newspaper work. At Clarence Hansen's instigation, and with the support of the News, Townsend assumed a leading role in helping Birmingham pull itself together during the racial struggles which marked those years. The News advocated peaceful, progressive change in spite of strong opposing sentiments, which for a while made special security a necessity for the news building and for the homes of editors and management executives. News editorials advocated a change in Birmingham's government to a more progressive mayor-council structure. Once the issues of the 1960s were drawn, the Birmingham News became a powerful force in the pursuit of peaceful and constructive solutions to the social problems of the day. The 70s heralded a decade of self-analysis, and the News was changing too. The times were becoming more complex, and so were the requirements of readers. So the News introduced special sections, features, more artwork, more color photos, and evolving editorial commentary, all of which fostered a more personal relationship between the News and its readers. And so the 70s led to the 80s, and the News tradition of continuity and local control of management continued. Following Clarence B. Hansen Jr.'s death in 1983, his son, Victor H. Hansen II, succeeded him as publisher, the third-generation Hansen at the paper's helm. And his son, Victor H. Hansen III, is now the company's vice president and general manager. The 80s also saw the culmination of groundwork laid during the 70s for expanded production facilities. An impressive $32 million printing facility now houses the most advanced newspaper printing and handling equipment in the world. 21 press units over 250 feet long ensure that the Birmingham News is a state-of-the-art news product. Through all the changes the world has witnessed since Rufus Rhodes gave life to a small newspaper in a small town in 1888, assuming a leadership position is a tradition which the
Birmingham News maintains to this very day. Throughout the century during which the Birmingham News has been published, the paper has changed with the times and with technology. Where carrier pigeons once carried game scores and photos from Birmingham's Legion Field, high-tech portable computers now speed pictures and stories to the newsroom from around the world. Imagine you are poring over the Sunday paper, fresh coffee in hand. Do you think about that paper as a marvel of modern technology? Do you think about the astonishing production process required to put it in your hands? Certainly not, because the paper is just there, the way it's supposed to be. A complete record of city, state, and world events for a few cents a day. Putting people in touch with daily events, communication, is the very life force of the Birmingham News, as it has been for over 100 years. Led by the editor, it is the job of the editorial department, over 130 editors, reporters, and photographers, to gather and report the news. They bring their talents together to act as the eyes, ears, and interpreters of the city and the events which shape our lives. With specific areas of coverage called beats, reporters and photographers bring to their editors the pulse of activity, from City Hall and the Board of Education to business news, Washington and Montgomery politics. Plus, there are colorful features on area people and events, the causes for celebrations, as well as the problems of our times. Excellence in reporting and in photography has reaped a rich harvest of state and national awards and recognition for the Birmingham News, from Pulitzer Prize nominations to an illustrious list of national and state awards for journalistic excellence. The Birmingham News editorial staff has established and maintained a commitment to bringing readers the very best news coverage possible. In conjunction with accurately and objectively reporting, the news must interpret events, make complex issues more easily understood. Led by the editorial page editor, this important task is a collective effort on the part of the publisher, the general manager, the editorial page editor, and the staff of editorial writers. The result is an editorial page which includes special writers for the op-ed page, signed columns, cartoons, letters to the editor, and the News' own editorials. This variety of vantage points provides a range of informed perspectives from which to base personal opinion and from which readers can make their own decisions. In addition to its own seasoned staff of journalists, the News draws input from 4 different news services which bring news from around the world. The Nexus Database system allows reporters to plug into over 250,000 publications for research information, from major newspapers and magazines to newsletters and other wire services. The News Library is a wealth of information with hundreds of thousands of clipping files, photograph files, and volumes, plus microfilm copies of papers dating all the way back to 1888. Writers and editors come here for facts, clippings, and photos used for news development, explanation, and comment. In addition to the wealth of information available to readers of the Birmingham News in the afternoon, people can seek news, information, and opinion in the morning from the Birmingham Post-Herald, editorially a completely separate and competing local newspaper. The ability to have 2 independent editorial voices in one city, an asset often missing in America today, is the result of a pioneering joint operating agreement between the Birmingham News Company and Scripps Howard, publisher of the Birmingham Post-Herald. Since the early 1950s, the Post-Herald has occupied space in the Birmingham News building. Each paper maintains its own completely separate corporate identity, and the Post-Herald has a totally independent editorial staff. But in business matters, the Birmingham News Company acts as agent for the Post-Herald, doing all of the printing, distribution, and advertising for both papers. Advertising is news too. The products, styles, and services advertising spotlights affect us all daily. So it's no wonder that advertising is one of the most widely read features of the paper. It is also the paper's main source of revenue. It may surprise you that the sales of the newspaper itself, delivered to your home or purchased at a newsstand, do not even pay for the cost of the newsprint on which it is printed. But of most importance, advertising is like an engine that powers our economy, sparking the mass consumption which makes mass production possible. Our large sales team includes representatives for retail ads, national ads, and classified ads. These salespeople work with businesses developing effective advertising strategies designed to increase sales. The Creative Service Department is an important part of this effort. Working with the sales representatives, the artistic design team creates each ad. Effective layouts and copy are carefully designed to help each business reach its target market. These are the ads which salespeople take back to their clients. In addition, through the News' extensive research studies, specific readership profiles can be compiled by the marketing department to help advertisers understand their markets and create ads that work. The complex system of producing the paper works like a spider web, linking a vast network of departments together, bringing news and advertising information together into one clear format. All the elements must be prepared. News and advertising copy are set on computers, printed out and made ready. So are photographs and artwork. Each will be pasted down onto full-page grids. The makeup department begins building the skeleton of a news page by positioning ads. This placement will create the space into which editorial copy is positioned. This grid acts as a blueprint, determining how each page will look. Then a computer typesets both advertising and editorial materials to fit the blueprint. Each element is then waxed, trimmed, and pasted down on a grid, just as it will appear in the final production stages. Once complete, each grid is photographed and a negative is made. These negatives are sent to the plate room. Each page has an aluminum plate which has a light-sensitive coating. The negative is applied to the plate and exposed to light. Where the light touches the plate through the negative, a positive print is made. Having done this, the plate goes to the press room, and it is here that the paper comes to life. Each page's plate is placed on a cylinder of the press. Water is applied. Because water and ink do not mix, places where water sticks will be blank. Places where ink sticks make images. But because these Gauss presses are offset presses, there is another important step. The cylinders with the plates attached make contact with a rubber blanket, and it is the blanket, not the plate, which actually touches the paper, resulting in a printed page. These state-of-the-art presses will print up to 75,000 complete newspapers each hour, using over 200,000 pounds of paper and 2,000 pounds of ink to produce 4 daily editions and 2 Sunday editions of the Birmingham News. But there is more. Once printed, the papers are fed through a folder and cutter, then sent to the mail room, where they are stacked and bundled for distribution. Then, based on a system of route numbers and specifically assigned, the papers are labeled and routed on conveyor belts and chute to the appropriate trucks. The circulation department, with 8 division managers and over 60 distributors, handles the actual city, state, and mail delivery. Distributors are responsible for 1,000 carriers who are independent businessmen and women, the last link in the production chain. Together, over 225,000 news and post-herald papers are delivered daily to homes and newsstands across Alabama. The Birmingham News has become one of the most influential daily newspapers in the South. From its inception, it has been a champion of civic and social programs covering a wide range of projects which showcase the dynamic talent and resources of the city and emphasize the News' commitment to public service. The Birmingham News is a successful business. It is also a living testament to the dreams and aspirations of Rufus Rhodes and the Hanson family. People with a vision for Birmingham, a vision shared in the pages of the Birmingham News for over 100 years. Today's challenge is to take Birmingham into the future, a challenge welcomed by the men and women whose job it is to meet the future with confidence and report to us what they see.